All right there, everyone. Taiwanese voters overwhelmingly reject a same-sex marriage referendum backed by George Soros. That's what we're talking about. And that was a referendum for so-called marriage equality that was being backed by the Open Society Foundation and, of course, funded by the ultra-left-wing billionaire George Soros. You know, I'm glad to see that a significant portion of Taiwan's population continue to consider such mediating structures such as family and community to be of more importance than the Western globalist notion and invention of a sovereign individual. Nevertheless, the courts gave the government 2 years to legalize same-sex marriage, but politicians couldn't decide how to do it, whether they needed to pass a new law or legislation or just alter the civil code. And so the whole thing just went to the voters for them to decide. Now, this is not the first time something like this has happened. We did a video several months back on Bermuda, which was the first nation to successfully overturn a court's ruling forcing same-sex marriage on the island by their own Supreme Court. Back in June of this year, Bermuda became the first government to actually restore the traditional definition of marriage just 6 months after the island's Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex unions. Now, that same court, as I understand it, has just struck down that law, which of course was to be expected. But again, what we're seeing here is a massive clash between elitist liberal globalists on the one hand and populist traditionalist nationalists on the other, centered on the whole definition of marriage. And we can expect plenty more of this in the future. Make absolutely no mistake, liberal globalists are doing absolutely everything they can to destroy the traditional conception of marriage as the foundation of human civilization. You can see this with the coverage going on right now with the Bermuda court decision. They appealed to this whole notion, the liberals did, to this whole notion of freedom of conscience as the basis for sneaking in the notion that you can now overturn centuries of civilization precedent for traditional marriage as the foundation for a flourishing society and as an indispensable God-ordained institution for the shaping and cultivating of what it means to be truly human. All of this is getting thrown out in favor of turning marriage into a lifestyle value. And this is what liberal activists are going to use to give liberal courts. Judges today are overwhelmingly liberal in the modern globalist world, given that most law schools around the world are teaching what's called positivist law versus the historic natural law tradition. And these left-wing Soros-funded activists are going to use the freedom of conscience clause, which virtually every modern society has in its constitution. They're going to use that clause as the way in for justifying the imposition of same-sex marriage on worldwide populations. Now, again, this edict from on high, as it were, this mandating of homosexual marriage from our elite institutions is already provoking a massive backlash. And Taiwan may, in fact, be a very insightful indicator here. Taiwan has long been recognized as one of the more liberal nations in Asia. It's hosted the largest gay pride parade in Asia. It was the first country to push the legalization of same-sex marriage, and opinion polls show Taiwanese favoring same-sex marriage by a slender margin, slender majority. However, it does appear that all of this has also amassed a very significant backlash from conservative forces throughout the nation, so much so that they appear to have completely frustrated the president of Taiwan's efforts at making same-sex marriage legal. It'll be very interesting to watch how things develop in Taiwan. Their elitist globalist Supreme Court is still going to want some kind of recognition of same-sex marriage. But as for now, the people have spoken, and they gave a resounding defense of conservative traditional marriage.